Hey folks, welcome back to Daily Blades. Today we're going to be talking about the CRKT 5311, the Pilar model. Excuse me, Pilar from Columbia River Knife and Tool. This is a small frame lock knife, thumb hole opening. Go ahead and give you some close-up shots of it. Just kind of shut up for a minute and let you see it, because to me I think this is a really pretty knife. I really like the sheep's foot blade. It's a little heavy, we'll get into that, but I think aesthetically it's very pleasing. If you look at some of Jesper's knives and stuff that he's designed, it has some of the cues that are his characteristics. Edges are nice and rounded and chamfered, but as you can see around the hardware, they're left squared off. That's kind of typical of some of the designs I see from him. It's got these nice cutouts on the back side, on the frame lock side. Aesthetically pleasing. Pocket clip, right hand tip up or tip down carry. In the tip down configuration, it leaves these nice and exposed. If I was to flip it the other way, it would actually block some of that, which to me is more aesthetic than anything. But yeah, so pretty decent stone, satin finish on the blade. But yeah, pretty cool little knife. So go ahead and knock out some of the more traditional specs on the knife. You're looking at overall length of 5.9 inches. Blade length is coming in just a little bit under 2.5 inches. Blade thickness is coming in at 0.15 of an inch. So that's a pretty stout thickness on a blade, being such a small knife. It is 8CR13 MOV blade steel, so good corrosion resistance. Obviously, the edge retention and stuff isn't going to be on par with some of the other knives on the market, but we're talking about a knife that's coming in at roughly $25. So it is a flat grind, and you can see the flat grind does ride up pretty high. So that's definitely a nice feature about that. What else we got? The handle length is about 3.5 inches. Handle thickness is, I think, 0.45 of an inch, so you're coming in just a little bit under half of an inch. We covered its right hand tip up or tip down, and the weight is coming in at 4.2 ounces. So I think that's enough of the main specs. I think if you're interested in this knife, you've probably already seen it for sale, and you're gonna, ponder all the different actual manufacturer specs. But I just wanted to give it a minute to talk about it, because it's a knife I've had for a couple weeks now. I've carried it on and off, probably collectively maybe 7 or 8 days, and I've put it through quite a few tasks. One of the things I found really interesting about this knife is I didn't think initially it looked like very good of a piercing blade. And while it's not obviously meant for piercing, I really didn't have any issue penetrating cardboard and slicing through it. So it pierced fine. It came razor sharp. I mean, the last couple of CRKT knives I've gotten have been coming with fantastic edges on them, and this one's no exception to that. I mean, it was hair shaving sharp out of the box. I have noticed in the cutting task that I used it for, then the intentional testing I did, that it already has lost some of that factory edge sharpness, but it did come extremely sharp out of the box. It's got this awesome finger choil on the blade there. So even though it's a small knife, I mean, like I said, we're talking about a knife that's coming in sub 6 inches. And, I've got pretty large hands, so maybe not long fingers, but they're big hands. And when I go ahead and use that choil as it's intended, I mean, I get all 4 fingers on the knife. Really nice purchase. Very, very comfortable in the hand. I mean, no real hot spots or anything. Maybe just a hair on the underside of my finger. If I squeeze onto it really hard, like right in there, maybe just a little bit, but I mean, honestly, it's completely acceptable amount. The pocket clip doesn't create a hot spot, and that's also because I'm carrying it in a tip down position. If I had it reversed for tip up, that pocket clip may cause a little bit more of a hot spot in my palm, but in the configuration I have it in, no hot spots or anything like that. Solid knife. The lockup is excellent on it. Try and give you a close-up of that. I mean, you're coming in probably somewhere around 30-35%, and it locks up nice and solid, whether you flick it out, roll it out, whatever you want to do. That's another cool thing about this knife. Roll outs, flick outs. You can go ahead and use your middle finger and like the traditional Spidey flick from the backside. But I'm going to tell you my favorite way of deploying the knife, and the reason why I have it set up in this manner where it is tipped down, is so it'll ride my right front pocket like this. I tend to get my thumb, you know, kind of somewhere indexed in that hole, bring it out of the pocket, roll it up, give it a little flick, and then come right to the user position. So it looks something like this. So super fast deployment. Feels really good. I mean, it almost just felt natural the first time I did it. And I've tried to do this with a lot of, you know, thumb hole opening knives and stuff, but obviously ones that don't have a finger choil like that, you know, you're wanting to go ahead and go to the blade because that's where your hands are positioned because of where you're opening it at. But this knife with that large choil, I mean, it just works out perfect, you know. So just a quick flip, boom, ready to cut. So I really like fondling and flipping this knife. It's very fun to pull out a pocket, deploy like that, and do it over and over and over again. For me, it was worth the $25 just to have it as something to flip around and play with, and not even talking in the sense of it being a useful knife. But it is very useful, and it's a cool little knife. I'm not going to beat it up and talk about every little aspect about it just because it's a budget knife. I think that if you're looking at it, you've maybe already saw images of it and it appealed to you as far as aesthetics go, but I'm going to let you know that it is a good, useful blade design. The handle shape is excellent. I mean, it's hard when you get into these smaller knives to give you a knife that feels comfortable in the hands and feels useful in the hands, and they have 100% nailed it with this thing. It feels good, even without any jimping or anything up there. I mean, I feel like I get just a strong, solid grip, and I'm able to do some fine cutting. And speaking of that, hit on that real quick. I was out in the shop, and I was mocking up out of cardboard when I do templates, whether I'm fabricating gas tank or side covers for motorcycle or tins, whatever I'm working on. I usually, you know, do a rough mock-up in cardboard to get my general shapes, and I actually use this knife to cut out all these pretty intricate templates that I was making. Now, these weren't my final templates for when I go to, you know, use the metal, forge it out of the metal, but it was good enough for me to get nice fine edges, whether I was, you know, using a straight edge for a nice straight cut, and then actually doing some rounded cuts when I was making these side covers for the motor mounts. So yeah, I mean, it's a really good little knife. It's really useful. I found it to be handy. I found that the 4 ounces disappeared my pocket because it is such a small profile. You know, when it's closed, everything's nice and rounded. It's not very big, so the weight really wasn't a huge issue for me. I had no problem bringing it in or out of the pocket. You know, the clip was definitely well adequate. So if you get a chance to grab a hold of one of these, I would say go for it.